Hello, we're so excited to have you here today for our first ever cooking demonstration in our new state-of-the-art demonstration kitchen. I'm Carly Wooten and I work on the communications team at Atrium Health. Joining us here today are Chef Alyssa Wilen from Chef Alyssa's Kitchen, along with Elaine Jones, our Community Engagement Manager at Sanger Heart and Vascular Institute. Today, they'll be walking us through a heart-healthy recipe that has a lot of ingredients you have right at home.
Thanks, Carly. We are so excited to have you here. I, along with other dietitians for Sanger, really try to help educate the community on foods that would benefit your body, help you manage your chronic disease like heart disease. And there are some simple steps that you can make at home or when you're eating out that can get you to your ultimate goal of living a healthier life. And by making those baby steps, we call them, those simple steps, they add up and help you achieve your goal. So right now, we're going to learn a little more about Chef Alyssa's style of cooking.
Thanks, Elaine. I'm so excited that I get to share this recipe with you. Today we're going to be making a seared trout with a brown rice salad, and this is full of really vibrant flavors, pulling on the natural sweetness, the natural acidity, these combinations of flavors that's going to really make this taste bright and also just full of versatility. So there's substitutions you can make and really create your own dish out of this. For this recipe, we're going to be using beets, brown rice, tangerine or mandarin orange, fresh herbs, parsley, oregano, chives. You can also use cilantro or tarragon. We're using sumac, golden raisins, roasted walnuts. You could also substitute almonds or pine nuts, whatever you prefer. Bay leaves, olive oil, clarified butter, and rainbow trout, which could also be a substitute for salmon. These ingredients that we're going to start with is some roasted beets. I know we're both very fond of beets. They're so flavorful, and even if you think you don't like beets, the pairings that you can add to them really just make them taste completely different. So I'm a big fan of using whole ingredients and learning the best way to break down those ingredients. Throughout my cooking classes, I'm really teaching people how to, not be intimidated by an ingredient that's not pre-prepped. So we've got beautiful red beets here. The greens are delicious and very healthy, so you could utilize those. But we're gonna roast the bulbs of the beets in a very simple, easy way that is kind of my only way that I prefer to do them. So we're gonna cut off the tops here. And since these are a little bit long, I'm just gonna trim that. The oven's set to 375 on roast, on convection, if your oven goes to convection, but we're gonna roast these inside some aluminum foil. And I just leave the tops open while I take some olive oil, drizzle a little in, and then you'll sprinkle in just a little bit of salt and pepper. That'll help the beet develop some flavor as it's in the oven. So we'll just put them on the flat side on the sheet tray. They'll go right into the oven. They take about 25 to 30 minutes. So while the beets are roasting in the oven, we're gonna add our brown rice and steam that in the pot. If I'm not toasting my rice in the pan, what I highly recommend that everybody do is wash off their rice. That way it won't stick together with some of the dust that just sort of accumulates on the rice while it's sitting in the bag. So this is a cup of rice. For brown rice, we're doing a 2 to 1, and I'm just gonna add 2 cups of water. Put that in my pot. Add in the water.
And sometimes when I'm cooking at home, if I want to cook brown rice, and the beauty of brown rice is that it has more fiber. And again, this goes back to the point I was trying to make earlier about food in its most natural form. And so the brown rice with the fiber actually helps our body in the digestive process to cling onto all the impurities in the other foods we may be eating and helps to eliminate it from our body before we have the chance to absorb it and to allow it to do damage. So make sure every day that you're including some forms of fiber.
I've got a couple of bay leaves that I'm gonna add in. This is optional if you don't have bay leaves, but I just like to infuse that aroma. It just pairs so well with rice. I'm gonna bring this up on a high heat to a boil. And once it's boiling, we'll close the lid and turn it down to the lowest setting so that it gets nice and steamed. So now that the water is boiling, you can really smell the aroma of the bay leaves. So we're just gonna put the lid on, lower this to the very lowest setting, and let that go for 30 minutes. So now I'm gonna grab those beets out of the oven that are ready.
One of the beautiful things about having these demonstrations in the kitchen is that hopefully it will help you to become a little more confident in trying new recipes, just like this one that Chef Alyssa is demonstrating today.
I did put on some kitchen gloves because these are, I'm gonna get into the red beets, but I do try to start with the golden ones first, and that way...
they smell amazing, by the way.
They do. I love, love, love this. So with them being nice and roasted, we're just gonna take a paper towel and just kind of smooth out the skin here, and that comes right off. And you still want to do this while they're slightly warm, but certainly not hot right out of the oven. And I'm going to slice these up into little wedges, but you could dice them, whatever anyone prefers. Our next step for these beets to make them really bright in flavor, and just my favorite thing, is we're going to add some juice and zest of the tangerine.
Wonderful.
So we'll add, maybe one is probably plenty for this, but you could certainly add 2. I would not be against that. We're just gonna zest off.
May I?
Yes, please, go ahead. My best suggestion is just to do it directly over and you're doing that, whatever you're cooking, because you release a lot of flavor and oils in zesting. So we've got a bit of parsley. I'll trim off the oregano. The smell is so intense, I love it. But
it's wonderful.
You can
just
squeeze in all of the juice.
Okay. So just toss this together?
Yep, toss it together. We'll let it sit in the refrigerator until the rice is ready and cooked. With herbs, you lose a lot of flavor if you over chop them, and if you also don't slice them properly. What you want to do is make those cuts really count. So we're going to roll them all nice and tight. I'm going to pinch my fingertips on the top, but have this kind of position where I'm almost holding a little golf ball. But that way my fingers are protected and I can get some really fine slices. Also, when you're using your knife with fresh herbs, you don't want to have a chopping downward motion. You want to pull the knife back and rock through. So Elaine, we're gonna take this rainbow trout, we're gonna open it up on the cutting board so that we can season the middle.
Am I doing the skin side down
Yes.
for you to season? Mm-hmm. Okay, like so.
Hold your hand up nice and high, any of your spices really, so that you get a nice even coverage. You don't just have spots that taste, a little bit stronger. You can see that a little bit better with the pepper as I sprinkle that on. So we've got a nice bit of fresh herbs. Then I'm gonna season it with the sumac. And then we'll just close these up. So our rice is all finished. Before we cook our trout, I'm just gonna take it right out of the pot and add to it a couple of ingredients that are just gonna make it taste delicious. I'll just put that in a bowl. And we've got some raisins.
Is that about a half a cup?
Yeah, this is about a quarter cup. I'm not adding quite as much as I had in there. And I'm also gonna add some roasted walnuts. So you wanna make sure you have a good preheat on your pan. So I'm gonna let it sit on about a medium-high heat for 2 to 3 minutes. Then we'll add a little bit of clarified butter, and I really like using clarified butter, especially for fish, because it's a good high temperature cooking fat, nice and like good for you fats in that. To this pan. Beautiful. So it's just rippling nice and hot. And then I'm just going to set one piece at a time into the oil. So make sure you move the pan so that you have a good spot to set it in. And once I start to see that I've got some good browning all around the sides and that the fish has become nice and white and opaque kind of halfway,
Okay.
I'll turn them over. So we'll start to flip these over and just kind of give that, you can see it's got a good crust and nice browning. This looks just about perfect. I see a tiny little bit of pink, but I know that the carryover cooking is gonna take care of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just turn the heat off, slide the fish over, and I'll set up my plate while that's just resting in the pan. Okay, so we're ready to plate up this dish. The rice, while it was cooling down, I add the raisins in it, so you can see they've become really nice and plump and absorbed just a little bit of moisture from the steam. Yeah, they just taste even more flavorful. And I'm gonna add in some arugula. I really like the pepperiness of that green with everything. But as we mentioned in the beginning, if you wanted to utilize the beet greens as your green of choice for this, that's a great way to go ahead and use the whole ingredient. And we're just gonna fold in some of these greens along with a little more olive oil.
And we love recommending cooking with olive oil. It's part of the Mediterranean diet.
I just toss this together initially, and then I add a little bit more in if I need to. All this needs to finish off is a piece of our trout.
Wonderful. May I serve you up?
Yes. Place that right on top. Beautiful. And then it's got so much flavor filled in the inside, the texture of the fish paired with the texture of all of the ingredients in this salad. This is something you can keep in your fridge for several days, so you put in all the work and you've got plenty to enjoy for another meal. So lots of ways to interchange these ingredients and make it your own, but use inspiration from all of the freshness. Well, Elaine, it's been such a pleasure cooking with you in this beautiful new space.
Oh, it's been a pleasure having you here as well. Thank you for your talent and your time.
Well, absolutely. And I hope that if you've been cooking along with us, that we can get to see your dishes. So please post and tag us at #SangerHeart and #ChefAlyssaCLT. We'd love to see what you're doing out there.
And if you submit your photos when you're using those hashtags, you could be featured on our social media channels. So stay tuned for many, many more opportunities to connect with us and chefs like this wonderful Chef Alyssa to teach you more on how to cook healthy at home.